I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
Lance Velchek here, for Arrow in the Head's The Fucking Black Sheep, where we take a look at the opposing opinion of the genre's most divisive films. A horror icon is something that transcends. It jumps platforms into other media and is firmly accepted into the pop culture zeitgeist. The 70s brought us Leatherface and The Shape. The 80s, Pinhead, Chucky, Freddy Krueger, and Jason Voorhees. Hats off to the 80s. And 26 years ago, the 90s gave us our last genre-defining horror icon, the Candyman. Now, of course, more current efforts like Ghostface, The Djinn, and Victor Crowley have made waves. But the Candyman was the last of the sort of modern golden age. With the internet and social media shaping existence, we will never again have a character that crosses over into the mainstream, nothing that will warp little kids' minds alike. There's just too much content out there for any one thing to do what Freddy Krueger or Michael Myers did to us as kids. So let's look back at an underrated sequel to the last of the greats, Candyman Farewell to the Flesh. While other films had their stories set in places like the New Jersey woods, the quiet suburbs of California, or the bleak back roads of Texas, Candyman put its terror into the urban jungle of Chicago. Now, though Child's Play also used the city as its backdrop, Candyman incorporated it into its themes of class and race, using the real fear of Chicago's most notorious landmark, Cabrini Green.
Cabrini Green? Candyman country.
And growing a tragic ghost story from it. It worked by integrating real horror with an uncomfortable social narrative. This was our ghost, and something we needed to atone for. But the Candyman himself, Daniel Robitaille, can go anywhere once summoned, and the sequel wisely switched locations and put him in one of the most haunted cities out there, New Orleans. We are a few days from Mardi Gras. Street parties and parades serve as our backdrop. The Candyman is called upon by the first film's urban legend expert, Dr. Philip Purcell. He is our link to the first, and in doing so, cements this one as a natural continuation. Our protagonist, Annie Tarrant, a local teacher, is dealing with the murder of her father and the arrest of her brother, Ethan. You see, Annie and her family directly tie into Daniel Robitaille's history. And this focus is the film's defining strength. Candyman was never a bloodthirsty monster, no. This was an intimate and eloquent character from Clive Barker, and was properly adapted as so. To prove the non-existence of our ghost, Annie recites his name and has caught his loving attention. Similar to the first, he becomes infatuated with her, while framing her for the body count he accumulates. We learn that her father died looking for a method to destroy him, which is awesome. While the first films seemed to make Daniel somewhat mortal at times, he was able to be stabbed and burned. I do like that here we need something more mystical to put his spirit to rest. The family is the descendant of Daniel's true love, Caroline Sullivan, the white girl that he fell in love with and impregnated, that set into action his brutal torture and murder. This is now a tale of a bloodline.
Hell is what I'm going to catch, and I'm gonna burn it away in a blaze of light.
Not that bloodline. But I'll always love you, Hellraiser 4. Always. This story is essentially about the Tarrant's family guilt, the repercussions of their slave-owning lineage, and their denial of it. As Daniel Robitaille lie there dying, Caroline's father forces one last act of humiliation by holding up a mirror to show him his disfigurement. This is where the need for reflection plays into the legend. Annie's house is his birthplace, and the slave quarters is where the mirror, the source of his power, resides. The Candyman was born out of nothing more than racism and fear of anything different. He was a painter and someone who was accepted into this post-Civil War society, but his biggest sin was the love for a woman of a different color. Farewell to the Flesh doesn't shy away from this and chooses to show, not tell. Caroline's father, forcing Daniel to look at himself in the mirror while the lynch mob laughs, is by far the strongest scene. This is a character's defining moment, and it is darkly beautiful. The vibrancy and warm colors juxtaposed with this horrific act that creates the Candyman is, well, perfect. you can step back and see that Farewell to the Flesh is Bill Condon's Southern Gothic love story. Now, I may argue that this film has gotten some undeserved backlash, but it is far from solid. The thing that will always keep it from having its day in court is its dialogue.
Your father was trying to destroy everything that we had by linking our name with that monster.
The acting may be what you'd expect from something that sounds like a straight-to-VHS movie, even though it's not. But even the most seasoned actors couldn't have made some of these lines work.
What has our family got to do with this?
I don't know. Dad wouldn't tell me.
But what if it's true? What if the Candyman does exist?
Then only God can save us. The mirror is the secret of my strength, the keeper of my soul.
God damn it, Candyman, shut up! Shut up! Don't just give away your weakness like a fucking Bond villain. And yes, he clearly gives away his big, shining vulnerability. We also get to deal with the inevitable, let's try a New Orleans accent. Films have conditioned us to blindly accept the hammed-up Boston talk.
Sergeant in the Massachusetts State Police, who the fuck are you?
Oh, yeah, my big chance was with Sugar Ray Leonard. I'm so great, I'm the pride of them all.
So you're gonna follow me, armed with no credentials into the city of Boston? You out of your fucking mind.
But since the New Orleans Yad accent is rarely attempted, it just drowns every performance it's used in.
To the cafeteria. I hear the gumbo's good and hot.
I always thought they were better than me. Because they lived in some fucking mansion up on Esplanade Avenue.
Hey, what's the matter? You don't like my cooking? It too hot for you?
Now, they recant in the first film's origin of Chicago by placing Daniel solely in New Orleans, which is a bummer. Setting shifting aside, Farewell to the Flesh respects its main antagonist and smartly delves into his rich and heartbreaking backstory. Loneliness is at the core of his character. There may be some goodwill left over from the first film, but I can attest, for every dip, there is a peak. We may get some shoddy CGI in the bee swarms and in Daniel's demise, but let's be grateful that this was made in a time where using real bees was an accepted idea. Using baby bees, as they are less aggressive, and coating the actors with a queen bee pheromone produces the signature look of these films. They don't waste the New Orleans setting either, from the narration of the radio personality Kingfish,
I got hooves on my shoes and horns on my head,
to the parades and the amazing ending set piece at the old plantation house. Farewell to the Flesh fares better than most horror sequels of its time. And since we only got two films, put ego aside and give it a fresh look. You may be surprised.
Candyman.
Candyman.
Candyman.